Hello, welcome to the PhoneWord Workshops event on Wednesday, June the 10th, 2015. It is 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and today we're going to be reviewing updates on numbering testbed prototypes that have been introduced recently, and we're going to be just taking a look at some of these prototypes and what they are in the beginning phases and talk about that aspect of what's going on in the naming, numbering, and addressing space. So thank you for joining. I will start the screen share, so bear with me. And what was introduced last week was during the NANCI meeting, which is the North American Numbering Council meeting, which you can find information on the North American Numbering Council by Googling NANC-chair, and you will come to this page. And when you click on this link, you will get to this page. Let me see if I can expand that a little bit. So if you go to the documents section, you'll see the June 4th items, minutes, and presentations. And basically, we're going to be looking at these two presentations, the June 15th numbering update, and then the June 15th Addis all IP transition. Whoops. Didn't mean to click that. Let's go back. The Addis all IP transition presentation. So the first presentation we're going to talk about today is the numbering update by Henning Schultz on June 4th. And for those of you who might not know who Henning is, he works with the FCC at this point in the capacity of, I believe, a consultant. Last year, he served as the Chief Technology Officer for the Federal Communications Commission. And Henning is a professor of computer science at Columbia University and a world-recognized leader in the naming, numbering, and addressing space. Henning is in the Internet Hall of Fame, and he is one of the co-founders or co-authors of SIP, Session Initiation Protocol. So Henning presented this item at the NANCI meeting, which was an overview of the IETF Modern Working Group. And for those of you that might not be familiar, the IETF is the Internet Engineering Task Force, and the Modern Working Group has come together and is working on a charter to create a transition from the copper telephone network, the public switch telephone network, into an all IP environment. And Henning also went over the E164.space prototype, and then he talked a little bit about robocalling and spoofing. So we're going to take a look at that prototype. Basically, that's our focus here today, or one of our focuses. So this is a slide that just kind of summarizes some of the things that have taken place recently with the IETF Modern Group. And here is a draft of their charter. I don't believe this charter has been fully agreed upon. Here's another part of the charter. And again, you can find both this presentation as well as the Addis presentation, which we're going to go over. You can find it on this page, which is nancy-chair.org, and look under the June 4th NANCI meeting for these two top presentations. But getting back to Henning's presentation, he talks a little bit about where IETF modern charters at. And then he starts to introduce a prototype that modern, as well as far as I can tell, pretty much anyone can start to participate and experiment with how numbering might be allocated in as we move into an all IP environment. So to get in to if you're interested in participating on this prototype, and let me show you a look at the prototype as it appears on the web. So this is the prototype on the web. It's at north.e164.space, and this is sort of the introductory page. You can, if you click into, I believe, system number admin access, you can, by emailing this address, am4227@columbia.edu, you can request access to this site. And assuming that you're granted access, then you can start to experiment with the site and contribute to how this might work. You can also, and we've covered this in other sessions on the PhoneWord workshops, you can also subscribe to, and I assume participate in, the modern conversation regarding what's next for numbering. So this starts to introduce the modern prototype. If we go to the next slide, slide 7, this is a look at, once you sign in, how the functionality and layout of the prototype starts to work. You can see various people have registered initial numbers in here, and there's a space for OCN, which that acronym, I believe's operator carrier number, or I can't remember exactly what OCN means. The assignee, meaning the service provider or telecom provider that is assigned the number, location, I'm not sure what collect means, and service indicator, so various fields. And I haven't fully explored this yet, but it is a start to how numbers might be assigned, allocated, and managed, administered in the future. So going on to slide 8, we look at some subscriber details, and or maybe this is the admin details, I'm not quite sure. And I believe that pretty much covers what's available in the public presentation around this modern prototype for the administration and allocation of numbers during this transition period. So I'll just briefly skip through some more of the presentation. And there was some conversation about robocalling, and that's a big problem. There was talk about the STIR group in the IETF and some of that, what's taking place with that initiative, and I believe that's secure telephone identity credentials, or revisited, something like that. And anyway, the presentation goes into more depth about STIR. Then there's talk of a do not originate function or registry for robocalling, and how do you get numbers into the list. Then automatic call blocking, a blacklist and a whitelist. Slide 14 is improving caller name reliability. And this all starts to talk about the whole identity management issues that are central and a key part of what's next in naming, addressing, and numbering. And the final slide is caller name, or CNAM. improvements. And here Henning talks about what a problem it is, how the CNOM can be spoofed, and that's causing some big problems. So that is a summary of Henning's presentation, which again you can find on the Nancy website, which is back here, and that's nancy-chair.org. The other presentation is the Addis all IP transition presentation, and if we go to that, for those of you that might not know, Addis is the Alliance for Telecommunications Industry Standards, I believe. That's what the acronym stands for. And if we skip through this, this is talking about some of their initiatives to create a prototype and to start to experiment with numbering as we transition from the copper network, public switch telephone network, into an all IP network. So here, point 4, you can see there's some conversation about test beds. So just to skip through this quickly, here's some of the various elements and considerations that are part of the conversation. And then we go into service transition work, looking at, okay, how do they propose that service can be transitioned from the legacy network into the contemporary network? And I won't go through that. There is an alliance and a conversation going on between the SIP forum and the IP NNI, which I believe is Internet Protocol Network to Network Interface Joint Task Force. So there's a number of industry experts that are involved in all this effort. And as we go on to slide number 6, you can see that here they've started to outline some of their business value propositions and cases. Slide 7 is the potential phase 2 topics, what they might address. And they're talking about video and some other things. So slide 8 is their summary of what they're looking at for public safety and how they're interfacing with what's going on with public safety and an all IP network. And then slide 9 is, let's see, PSRA TF status. Not quite sure what that is. Let's go on to slide 10. And then this gets into the testbeds landscape team. So they've created a testbed landscape team in December, and they're looking at industry transition initiatives and apparently creating a kind of a unified testbed. And then let's go on to slide 11, is the context is both broader and narrower than the FCC proposed testbed. So they're looking at more than just numbering, and but they're narrowing their priority on business problems that are surrounding the transition to all IP, and particularly network-to-network interfaces. And hello, is somebody on the conference bridge? Okay. So they are looking at how can this basically be practically accomplished. Slide 12, they're starting to highlight some use cases in terms of assignment, routing, and routing to support IP NNI, or Internet Protocol network-to-network interface, and toll-free telephone number routing, and then how to providers start to exchange data between themselves. And then, as was mentioned in Henning's presentation, how can this anti-spoofing and caller ID problem be addressed? So here's some more detail on the use cases. The granularity of number allocation, and I believe this is named service or named server records. How do you include URIs, URLs in the records? How do you do a distributed service bureau? How do you handle toll-free telephone numbers? How do you start to interface with the legacy databases that are out there, like the LURG? And then what's the protocol for exchanging data? And how do you verify the data? How do you assure some level of confidence that it's represents the rightful subscribers and is, has some degree of verification and reliability? And then how do you start to incorporate certificates? I believe cryptographic certificates or authority certificates. And then, are there alternative approaches for acquiring telephone numbers? Item 10. So going on to slide 14, they start with the actual existence of the test bed being virtual versus some physical rack of computers. Slide 15, they're talking about what fits within this and what doesn't fit within it, and sort of a path forward. Then slide 16 is how's the team going to cooperate and work together, I assume. And slide 17 is next steps, and they're expecting to have their report done in apparently third quarter of 2015. So again, you can find this particular presentation on the Nancy Chair webpage, nancy-chair.org, and that is this Addis all IP transition presentation. So basically, those are two new, well, the Addis prototype, I don't believe is up and working yet. The modern prototype apparently is working under north.e164.space. And then, so it's interesting to see what will happen with those two initiatives. Of course, here is the PHONEWORD, the beginning of the PHONEWORD prototype. And once you log in with Facebook, this is the beginning page where you can go to different sections. And let's just go to this first section, our first address, and you can see that you can type in various messages and hit enter, and if somebody else were logged in, then they would see that. Anybody logged into this particular address, jcarpenter@phonewordworkshops.com, would see this particular address. And the intention is that this will start to become a unified connectivity space, as well as a unified addressing space. So here you can see a representation for various types of addresses and numbering that might start to work in a unified fashion. So that is, and I would like to mention that Sachin Bhatnagar basically, and this is the PhoneWord Workshops page under workshops, phonewordworkshops.com. Sachin Bhatnagar used this chat room application, this basically within a Udemy course that he teaches, and that's the origin of the platform that you just saw. And I do recommend his course. Here's the link to the course, and again, you can find this at phonewordworkshops.com. And then there, in the prior PhoneWord Workshops events, I had talked about the Node WebKit, WebRTC, and AngularJS video chat client that was created by Arvind Ravulavaru. And I highly recommend that you take a look at this. And we will be talking about this in more depth in the future. And I highly recommend his website, which is The Jackal of JavaScript. He's got some great tutorials and presentations there. And then, of course, you can always go to phoneword.net to see what's taking place with the prototype and testbed for PhoneWord. So this is today's session, which will be available immediately after we finish today. Last night, there was a blockchain meetup in Scottsdale. This is meeting 2, our June meeting, and we talked about Cryptography 101, Introduction to Cryptography by Peter Steinmetz, who's a PhD and research scientist. You can watch that. Our next blockchain meetup, which is a separate initiative that I'm the co-organizer of the blockchain meetup. Our next meetup will be July 14th at 7 p.m. and we will be posting a link to that meetup so you can follow along and listen along and possibly even participate remotely, virtually. We did announce that there will be a blockchain, what we're calling a hack attack, on September the 26th, 2015 at Gangplank Chandler. And that'll be from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. And we'll have more information about that as that shapes up. So these are all elements that we're tracking in the PhoneWord workshops, and I invite you to follow along. Our next PhoneWord workshops event will be a week from today on June the 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we'll be going over more of these elements and possibly some other things. So that's pretty much it for today. And I'm going to switch back to the Hangout. So thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope this is interesting and valuable information for you. If you have any suggestions, please go to phonewordworkshops.com. Look under the contacts. You can get the contact information to submit topics or suggestions for the workshops. And I'm guessing that the workshops are pretty much going to follow this format until sometime in September or October. And then I'm expecting the PhoneWord workshops to take on a whole new direction. So we also have the PhoneWord Forum on the last Wednesday of the month, and that's going to be, at least for the next few months, open topics. And I invite you to participate in that. And you can find out more about the PhoneWord forums at phoneword.com under the PhoneWord Forum. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I look forward to your participation in the future.